Welcome back to SpaceX Daily, episode 42. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Today is July 23rd, 2026. Let's get into today's SpaceX developments. Starship Flight 13 tonight will test Starlink deployment from the full stack for the first time, advancing orbital refueling hardware validation. The mission marks the first time Starship will carry operational Starlink satellites as payload. The test focuses on upper stage performance with real customer hardware aboard, including attitude control and thermal margins under added mass. Launch preparations include final checks on the integrated vehicle at Starbase, with the window opening at 5:45 p.m. Central Standard Time and closing at 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. Sonic booms are expected over Brownsville, South Padre Island, and Port Isabel if the trajectory proceeds as planned. The Super Heavy booster will perform its standard ascent profile before separation, while Ship 39 targets a suborbital trajectory that includes payload deployment. Weather remains the primary watch item, and additional pre-flight testing on the booster completed yesterday. This continues the campaign's focus on rapid iteration between flights, building directly on the suborbital tests covered yesterday. Post-flight data will feed directly into the next vehicle configuration for orbital refueling demonstrations. The recovered hardware originated from an earlier Starship demonstration mission. Observers noted intact condition upon arrival at the brewery site. The payload serves as a public demonstration of re-entry survivability. Community members track the item through public recovery announcements. The event highlights ongoing Starship hardware reuse experiments. NASA plans comparative ground and flight tests of the two human landing system variants. The evaluation will assess docking interfaces, propellant transfer hardware, and crew transfer procedures for both Starship and Blue Origin options. SpaceX's Starship-based lander remains the primary architecture for Artemis 3 and later missions, with Blue Origin's lander as the backup. Results will inform final certification steps ahead of crewed lunar operations. A spent Falcon 9 upper stage from a prior mission will impact the lunar far side next month. Trajectory analysis shows the impact in the far side region and provides an unplanned opportunity to study crater formation from known mass and velocity. NASA and other observers plan to image the site post-impact, with no active spacecraft in the projected path. Cursor Router uses a request-level classifier to route coding tasks between frontier and lower-cost models. The system delivers comparable output quality while reducing inference spend by 30 to 50% for enterprise users. Early adopters report the router integrates directly into existing Cursor workflows without code changes. SpaceX AI is evaluating multiple Texas sites for new ground-up data centers following the XAI absorption. The expansion targets increased capacity for AI training and inference workloads tied to the broader Musk ecosystem and complements existing Colossus-class facilities. Indigenous groups and conservationists filed objections to a proposed South Texas land exchange involving SpaceX facilities. The filings claim the swap would remove protected habitat without sufficient environmental offsets. Court intervention is requested before any transfer proceeds, centering on compliance with existing federal land use rules. Observers on the ground at Starbase noted additional insulation checks on the booster ahead of stacking completion after the most recent static fire series. Reddit users tracked the path of a recovered Starship component delivered to a local business, arriving intact with visible charring on one side. Multiple accounts reported hearing distant sonic booms during a prior test window, confirming trajectory alignment with coastal communities. Launch viewers discussed expected timing for payload deployment relative to stage separation. The sequence places satellite release after the ship reaches its target altitude. Timing windows remain subject to real-time telemetry. Community members shared images of Mechazilla tower arms in standby configuration. The arms showed no movement during recent vehicle stacking. Observers noted the configuration matches post-catch test resets. Worth keeping an eye on, the land exchange dispute centers on compliance with existing federal land use rules, and resolution would require either revised mitigation plans or judicial clarification on the exchange terms. On the AI front, OpenAI raised its 2030 infrastructure spending forecast to $750 billion, with an initial $20 billion committed to a Georgia data center project, though no direct tie to SpaceX or xAI facilities was stated. The engineering angle on Flight 13 centers on how the added Starlink mass changes the minimum impulse needed from the Raptor vacuum engines. Any shortfall would appear as reduced apogee or a longer coast phase before deployment, supplying the first on-orbit data point for how payload mass affects the ship's ability to perform the precise burns required for future tanker rendezvous. Success here narrows the uncertainty on whether the current vehicle configuration can support the propellant transfer demonstrations that remain the program's next major gate. The same flight also exercises the ship's thermal protection system under a trajectory that includes a payload release event, adding a new variable to tile heating profiles. Earlier flights measured re-entry loads on an empty bay, but the Starlink mass changes both the center of gravity location and the radiative environment inside the bay after the door opens. Engineers will compare post-flight imagery and sensor data against pre-flight models to quantify how much additional margin exists before tile redesign or active cooling becomes necessary. That margin directly determines how quickly the program can move from suborbital tests to repeated orbital refueling attempts. On the ground side, the dual-flow operations now running on boosters 20 and 21 illustrate the manufacturing decision to parallelize acceptance testing rather than serialize it. By keeping two vehicles in the test flow simultaneously, the team reduces the calendar time between flights even if individual booster throughput stays constant. The approach trades increased ground support hardware for higher launch cadence, exactly the trade-off required if Starship is to reach the flight rate needed for sustained Mars architecture development. And a quick market note, SPCX closes at $115.26, down 0.6%. Before we go, Starship's next dataset will clarify how far the current configuration can stretch before the next design iteration. That's your SpaceX news for today. SPCX is trading at $115.26, down 0.6%. If the show saves you time, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify genuinely helps new listeners find it. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow. One more thing, if you liked today's episode, our sister show, Fascinating Frontiers, is worth a spot in your feed. The most fascinating news from space and science. It's one of the Nera Network's daily briefings, all free at neranetwork.com. The Do Positive Pod is the club for people who do something about it. Episodes and the dispatch wall at neranetwork.com/thedppod. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.